Welcome back to episode 100 of the BatChums podcast. I'm Drew Leiter, and joining me tonight is my co-host, the man, the myth, the new legend, Mike Gordon.
And for the 100th time on this show, I say howdy, Drew. 100 episodes. Congratulations, my man. That is no small feat to do 100 episodes of anything. And I know that we've still got a few episodes left for this season. But I think it's been a very fun ride so far. And yeah, 100 episodes. That's pretty cool, man.
Yes, congratulations to us.
Pat, 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 pat. Okay, enough of that.
All right, before we get into tonight's episode, I got to tell you, I had a Madge Blake sighting.
Oh,
Went to the art craft over the weekend, saw An American in Paris from 1951, and was surprised to see her in the movie. I hadn't seen that movie before, and neither had Calista. So, um, yeah, I was very surprised she was in a shop buying perfume.
you never know where you're gonna spot Aunt Harriet.
So I just wanted to shout that out before we started the episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's always yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, we don't see her much this season. So, unfortunately, her health is failing and yeah, she's not up to it. So, she's being written out, but they still have plenty to do with the new character and everything like that. So they and Alfred's role seems to have been gotten much bigger this season, I've noticed.
Yep, I've noticed that too. All right, so this is Batman season 3, episode 4, The Sport of Penguins. Episode aired Thursday, October 5th, 1967, directed by Sam Stranges and written by Charles Hoffman.
Charles Hoffman, who we know he's been writing episodes since the first season when he wrote the two that I believe introduced us to the Mad Hatter. He's written Joker episodes and Catwoman. He's written two of the Catwoman episodes with the Sandman. Those are the only two that he's written. Of course, Stanley Ralph Ross is the Catwoman guy, but he's written other. He wrote the other two-parter with the Mad Hatter, with the Contaminated Cowl, and he wrote the two-parter with the Green Hornet, which is pretty cool. And he wrote the final two-parter of last season, which was featuring Mr. Freeze, Ice Spy, and the duo Defy. And he wrote the second episode this season, Ring Around the Riddler. So he'll still continue to write more for this season. So he is one of the big writers on the show with 22 total episodes written for this series. And yeah, this one is we'll get into it. This one's been kind of interesting one. So I'll be eager to hear your thoughts on this whole episode so far.
Gotham Park Racetrack, the day before the Bruce Wayne Foundation Memorial Handicap. Senora Lola Lasagne and her prize filly Parasol pose for pictures and take questions from reporters.
I have a question before we get into that. So the Bruce Wayne Memorial Foundation, isn't memorial suggest that someone's dead?
Yes. Don't you think it should be the Thomas Wayne or Martha Wayne
Or
Memorial
just
Foundation?
Wayne, right? You could say the
Yeah,
Wayne Memorial, right? Like I think they're slinging around Bruce's name a little bit more than they have been, right? Because in the season finale for the second for the and maybe it might be a Charles Hoffman thing where uh with the ice arena, I think that was the Bruce Wayne ice arena, and now we're coming up to, he has a race named after him and everything like that. I don't recall them doing that much beforehand. Is that it's just is that just me? Or does that seem to be more of a recent thing for you too, where like a lot of things are named after Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, I think it has been more prevalent recently.
Yeah. So all the horse race scenes, excuse me, were actually filmed at Alamitos racetrack in Los Angeles, and it still exists today. It's actually the most one of they had three racetracks around that area: Santa Anita, Los Alamitos, and Hollywood Park. But now Hollywood Park is gone. It's the site now of SoFi Stadium. But those are the big parks, and it still exists today. So if you wanted to visit all of the places that on location they shot the Batman series at, you could go to Los Alamitos Racetrack and pretend you're Bruce Wayne. Or you could come with a parasol and pretend you're Lola Lasagna. Or you could race around the track and pretend you're parasol.
Or if you want to dress up in your best suit, you come waddling through.
And right, and and I'll also, while I'm stopped here, I will mention, of course, we're featuring Ethel Merman here as Lulu Schultz, aka Senora Lola Lasagna. Ethel Merman is a huge figure of the stage. Usually, she's usually regarded as a stage actress. She did some film and TV, less than 50 acting credits that way. She was around from 1908 to 1984, but as far as her Broadway legacy, it's huge. She is noted for actually singing, performing definitive versions of songs like "Hooray for Hollywood," "There's No Business Like Show Business," and the track from Gypsy, which she probably is most known for, is "Everything's Coming Up Roses." She was actually in the movie Anything Goes, 1936. She played a really funny character in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, 1963. Have you seen that movie?
No.
You should see that movie. You would enjoy that movie. That movie is a blast. It's got a ton of actors and actresses that you recognize, and it's just a fun movie to watch. I highly recommend it. But Ethel Merman is really funny as a mother-in-law, sort of a deranged, assertive mother-in-law in that one. She's really good. She was featured on The Muppet Show in 1977. She did 6 episodes of The Love Boat. But when I think of Ethel Merman, I think of her role in Airplane, 1980, because she kind of played herself a little bit. She plays, when they do the flashbacks to the war, and there's one guy in the infirmary who thinks he's Ethel Merman. I put that in quotes, but it's actually played by Ethel Merman. And as they're putting him under, he starts singing "Everything's Coming Up Roses," I think. And it's just hilarious. It's a hilarious cameo by Ethel Merman on that one. Were you familiar at all with, I mean, somewhat, you must have heard the name and been
Yes,
somewhat familiar
I'd
with it.
heard the name before for
Yeah.
sure. And of course, I seen her in Airplane. I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
movie.
Yes, exactly. If you love Airplane, I think you'll also dig It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. So I strongly recommend that everybody see that movie. It's a hilarious movie. We actually reviewed it one time on our station one and had a blast with it. So I've never seen it on the big screen, but that would be an awesome thing to do because it was shot really like widescreen, and it's just a great epic comedy like they don't make anymore. So pretty awesome. And Before I let you get into it, there's a reporter that you're about to mention. He's played by Alan Emerson, who was around from 1925 to 2007. He's got about 38 acting credits, but I wanted to bring him up because he was in season 2 of this series, Batman, and he played a henchman. He was a henchman of the Puzzler. He was Leiter was this character name in The Puzzles Are Coming and the duo His Slumming. He did some other work too. He played Luchek in Get Smart on the Get Smart series, which was a recurring character, I believe, and he was featured also in the episode of The Monkees. So if the reporter looked a little familiar to you, that's because we've seen him before.
A reporter asked Lola if she has the corner on the world's supply of shower sticks. She replies, "You must mean my famous collection of parasols." She opens the one she is holding and calls it priceless. Suddenly, the penguin snatches Lola's priceless parasol and waddles off.
Don't you love how nobody helps her?
I know.
The penguin just comes right along, not in a sneaky fashion whatsoever, just comes out, takes her parasol. She's like, hey, and he just waddles off, not even running, just waddling. And all the reporters are just watching. They just don't, nobody does a thing to stop him.
Later that day, the penguin strolls into the public library and uses an umbrella to cut open a glass case and steal a priceless folio of famous parasols.
So, a couple things here. This is the second time I think we've seen, maybe third, that we've seen the exterior of the library, which they don't even hide it. It just says New York Library on the outside of it. So, it's the New York Library. But one thing I noticed this time was inside the library, on top of like the bookshelf in the background, there's a phrase that says onward and upward forever that I spotted this time, and that is a 19th century phrase popularized by a Unitarian minister, James Freeman Clark, and it signifies evolving, moving upward, the development of humanity. It encourages people to move forward after challenges. It's a very optimistic, personal growth kind of phrase. So I kind of find it interesting that it's there. I don't know why it's there, but it seems cool. Um, and yeah, and this is another one that kind of scratched my head because the penguin waddles in and Barbara is right there and she's just watching him. Like she doesn't confront him, at least not immediately. And she just is like, what is he doing here? Probably wondering, like, why is he out of jail? And he just goes right up to the bookcase and then does his thing. She's just continuing to watch. She doesn't call anybody. She doesn't. And I'm like, Barbara, come on, man. You're supposed to be a woman of action. So that's very, very odd, right?
Yeah. Have you noticed they redesigned that library every time we have a scene there?
Yeah, it did look a little different, and I think that's why I noticed the phrasing in the background this time because it just looked a little bit different. Yeah.
Barbara Gordon stops the penguin before he can leave with the book. He argues that he is a tax-paying citizen and this is a public library. Barbara states it is a felony, and she is putting Penguin under citizen's arrest and calling her father. While Barbara is on the phone, Penguin puts his umbrella in the umbrella stand near the entrance and presses a button on it. It begins to tick. Barbara reports to her father that the penguin is gone, but he left his umbrella in the umbrella stand and it is ticking. Holy time bomb! Batman and Robin are already in Commissioner Gordon's office. Batman warns Barbara not to touch the umbrella. Penguin will want to escape alive, which gives the dynamic duo time to get there.
I mean, he's
Chief,
already left by the time she's called. This is a weird thing too because Commissioner Gordon is rightly freaked out. He's like, it's ticking. And he's like, get out of there. And she's like, I'm not leaving because of some ticking umbrella. And I'm like, girl, it's a bomb. Like, like leave. Like, there's no reason to stay there. You should evacuate the library right now and get out yourself because I mean, it's obviously a bomb, right? So
yes.
I, and the fact that she wants to stay there is just ridiculous. It doesn't make her look very good in that, to be honest with you. And so, Commissioner Gordon is freaking out about it, but and he should be. And then we see that the dynamic duo are right there already, which I'm guessing they're there because they called them because the penguin stole the parasol, right? But see, right now in season three, we're skipping all of that stuff. Like in previous seasons, we would have seen them call them, we would have seen them, get in the and I've noticed too that the opening credits after the theme song and everything, when they do the production credits of who wrote it and who directed it, that's no longer part of them going down the poles and getting into the Batmobile and then skating off to the commissioner's office. That's now done on top of scenes that are relevant to what's going on. Like during the whole press conference, they're showing credits during that with Lola Lasagna at the beginning. So they are really taking a lot of shortcuts to try to get these stories in, even though this is a two-parter. The first two-parter we've had this season, just like they usually are two-parters. But for some reason, they're still pushing they still got their foot on the gas when it comes to storytelling.
Yeah, and this episode still felt rushed.
Yeah, it still feels fresh. It's almost like we forgot how to write two-parters. We've been so and also I should note too that all of the stuff in the last part of the last episode that involved Batman, Robin, Penguin, and Lula Schultz, aka Senora Lola Lasagna, um, is just dismissed. Like that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The stuff that they were able to locate the Penguin and Lola Lasagna based on his squawk, and the Bat computer picked it up and all that stuff. That stuff is not mentioned at all.
Chief O'Hara wagers there's a connection between the parasol he stole from Lola Lasagna today at the racetrack and the incident at the library. Commissioner Gordon scoffs. You wager a public servant and upstanding chief of police betting? Chief O'Hara corrects himself, calling it a hunch.
Yeah, I like that scene because Gordon looks at him and you think he's going to berate him because he's like, "You think it's a coincidence? No, it's like," but instead he goes like, "A wager? Like, how dare you, sir?" And that's kind of a fun scene.
At the library, Batman uses the bat shield and tongs to remove the ticking umbrella. They take it into the corridor under the bat bomb machine where it explodes harmlessly. That's a
So
bummer.
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a bummer we didn't get to see the bat bomb machine. But I also noticed the bat shield looks different.
The bat shield looks a little bit different. It's got like a sort of thing that it's got tongs, which I don't know if we've seen before. But I always like looking at the back shield. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, um, that's a cool scene. But again, it like you said, it feels rushed
Yeah.
and cheap because they're not showing us stuff.
Yep. When Batman and Robin return to Miss Gordon, they learn that Penguin left the umbrella after she prevented his stealing a priceless folio of famous parasols from a locked case. Hardly a reason for an attempt on her life. Barbara reminds the dynamic duo that the Penguin once tried to force her to marry him, but thanks to Batgirl, that wedding never took place. And
So
it's a nice callback to a couple episodes ago.
yes, even though it's a clunky callback because I'm like, why does Barbara have to remind them? Like, I don't think Batman and Robin come off as too great in this episode. We'll see if they sort of redeem themselves in the second part, but they seem to be behind the eight ball, which is not unusual for them in this show. But it just seems like they don't know anything, and they're always running to the back computer to help them. And it feels like it doesn't feel like the Batman who was that we've seen sort of in the later part of the second season, who was always 10 steps ahead. There's other things in this episode too, where the Batman and Robin just kind of look kind of clunky together. And I, I don't know. It was just a weird vibe I was getting. That whole sequence where they take care of the bomb and then come back and are like, we don't know why he would do this. And I'm like, it's the Penguin. And they're like, well, he wouldn't want to kill people. And I'm like, he totally would want to kill people. And they're like, well, I don't know. It doesn't make sense that he would try to kill you because of a book. And it's like, yeah, don't you remember that she was going to be, they kidnapped, the Penguin kidnapped her? Even the confrontation that we get between the Penguin and Barbara Gordon, it doesn't feel like they know each other earlier in this episode. It kind of comes out of nowhere when she says, "Don't you remember that he tried to marry me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's right." Like, so why didn't you mention any of that when you were confronting him earlier? Like, it seems kind of clunky, like I've said before. So, yeah, there's some good stuff still to come in this episode, but it just feels a little off to me.
Batman and Robin decide to give the Bat computer a crack at this case. At the Penguin's bookshop, or to be more accurate, Penguin's bookmaking shop, Lola Lasagna states she received a note that she might find her priceless stolen parasol there. Penguin reports that it is not priceless after all. A little research has proven that it was a fake, just as she is a fake. Lula Schultz, and Penguin didn't need any research to prove that. He's known Lula back when she'd steal the braces from the other kids' teeth. And Lula adds, while you stole their teeth. So I thought it was interesting. They went way back here.
Yeah, yeah, I like the fact that they've had a relationship before. And yeah, I mean, in the last episode, at the end of it, we get the scene between the Penguin and Lola, and he knows who she is at when she's coming into town. And then that seems to be completely discarded for this scene, where he reveals that he knows who she is. And it's like, why are they doing this twice? But it is fun between them. And I don't know how you felt, but I did feel like Ethel Merman and Burgess Meredith have some chemistry. I think they work well
Yeah.
together. It's kind of fun to watch them together. Ethel Merman has a interesting way of acting. I think she acts like a stage actress does. So everything is big. I mean, her starting level is at 11. But unlike the one of the an actress who we've mentioned before that was always yelling all the time and had one sort of setting, um, Ethel just keeps going up. Like she's like she starts at 11 and then she goes up to like 25 at times. And I noticed that a lot of times when she's acting, she's not looking at Burgess Meredith. She's talking to him, but she's not looking at him. And I think that's a stage cue thing. But regardless of the fact, I think, her and Burgess are kind of fun. The fact that they grew up together is kind of fun because we don't get really backstories on these criminals at all very often. So, or any of the characters really for that matter. So it's always kind of fun when they do that. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned it before, but Lulu Schultz and aka Lola Lasagna, not any character from the comics. They're just this completely made up for this show. In fact, I do believe that the character of Senorita or Senora, I should say, Lola Lasagna is created, and it's kind of a riff on um, Ethel Merman's personal life because in reality, she was married for 3 years to Ernest Borgnine. And that, I guess, famously didn't work out. And so I guess Lasagna, Borgnine, they kind of just are having a little fun with that sort of uh, concept, I guess. So that's why that's in there. But yeah, there's no comic references to the her at all, and I don't even think she pops up at all in anything later. I could be wrong, but I don't think she pops up at all in anything. I think this is the only one, her only appearance. This and of course, the second part of this one.
Lola reveals that her horse Parasol is the only thing she has left from her 3-week marriage to billionaire Luigi Lasagna. Instead of dying at the age of 80, he divorced her because he thought she was after his money. She had to sell her real priceless collection of parasols for eating money. Lola suggests that if her horse Parasol should win the Bruce Wayne handicap tomorrow, just think of the purse. Penguin scoffs, the winnings are an empty purse. All proceeds in that race go to the Bruce Wayne Memorial Foundation. In the Bat Cave, the Bat computer spits out an answer. Robin reads that umbrella, parasol, a sunshade coming under the general category of covering, such as veiling, curtain, curtaining, blanketing. Batman shouts, blanketing! That's the clue we've been looking for. After several suggestions from Robin and Alfred, Batman realizes it is a horse blanket. Parasol is the name of the horse entered in Bruce Wayne's handicap by Senora Lola Lasagna. Suddenly, the Bat computer chimes, and Robin points out that the Bat computer correction signal and Lola Lasagna is a pseudonym for Lola Schultz. That's a sticky one.
This
Batman repeats,
this scene is kind of painful, Drew. Don't you
yes, it
feel
is
like?
very painful.
I mean, there's three of them sort of trying to brainstorm. I'm sorry, four, because the Bat computer is doing it too. And the Bat computer seems to be doing most of the work here. And I just found it like kind of, again, one of those things it just felt off to me. Like, this is not something that we've seen in a while. And we've had it. I think prior to this, the Bat computer hasn't been working. So they've had to kind of use their brains and think of things. I kind of prefer that more than I do this, where the Bat computer is like using bat logic to answer everything they need to know, which is kind of lazy, I think.
Yeah, and it's answering stuff without them inputting anything into it, really.
Right? They're
It's
just
acting like
talking.
an AI.
Yeah, it's talking like it's like Siri or something where it's like it's picking up on what they're saying and then just ding and Robin keeps going, "Hey, it keeps spitting stuff out." Like, it's just um yeah. And I think at one point Alfred points out one of his suggestions is that it could be regarding like bookmaking and gambling and stuff, and Batman dismisses him even though that's what it turns out later it's what's happening, right?
Yep.
And that makes Batman look foolish and I mean it sounds ridiculous to say that I kind of been put off by making Batman look foolish, but he doesn't usually look like a fool like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And this isn't even further along. I'll point something out. So
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to point out, but yeah, when we get there, I'll be curious to see if it's the same thing I'm thinking of.
Batman repeats the word sticky and then figures paste, glue, gluten. The Bat computer spits out another card. Gluten's glue factory. Holy non-sequiturs. Holy non-sequiturs.
Yeah, holy non sequitur. The
Thank you.
and yeah, and that's kind of like them acknowledging how ridiculous this is. By him saying non sequitur because these things don't seem to be tying in and connecting like they should be, and yet we're still going along with it, which is like pretty meta, for this show. And it's not unusual for this show to be meta, but not like this. It seems kind of yeah, it seems kind of weird.
They start out with parasols and come up with a glue factory. Since night has fallen, Batman proposes they pay an unexpected visit to Gluten's glue factory. Batman tells Alfred to stay alert. They may run into trouble.
Okay, so I mean, I know I've been pretty critical so far, but when Batman says now that night has fallen, I was like, ooh, like it just we don't get that much in the show. Usually Batman and Robin operate during the day. And so
Mhm.
when he says now that night has fallen, it just sounded like I don't know, Drew. I got chills when he said that. I thought that was really cool. Um, and yeah, I'm like Batman and Robin working at night. This is going to be awesome. Like this is yeah, I like that a lot.
As soon as the Batmobile leaves, Alfred calls Miss Barbara Gordon, informing her that Batman and Robin have taken off for Gluten's glue factory on an errand of deep mystery. Alfred overheard the conversation because the dynamic duo were to be dinner guests at stately Wayne Manor tonight. Alfred adds their tricky mission could involve her. It seems Penguin, his exploding umbrella, and a rare book of parasols are involved.
Yeah,
Barbara,
this is the first time we've seen Alfred reach out to her.
Hmm.
which I thought was interesting. And on the one hand, I was kind of like, does he not trust the dynamic duo to take care of this themselves? But I think because of the Penguin's involvement, and because he was involved when the Penguin kidnapped her, I think he feels like she deserves to be in on this. So that made sense to me. I think they mentioned it as well. And I appreciated that. Again, I like it that it's at a follow-up. Sometimes a lot of times we regard this series because it has a lack of continuity, but when it does have continuity like this, it's like, yay, we applaud.
Barbara Gordon thought she was going to have a quiet night home with her bird Charlie, but now she is off to Glue Gluten's glue factory as Batgirl. And I noticed we got a short scene. I mean, the last couple episodes, we've had some long scenes of her changing into Batgirl, going on her to her bat cycle and stuff like that, but it was short in this one. And we
Yeah.
didn't really get her theme song.
No, no. I mean, no, we don't. Well, that's without the lyrics, it's okay. Although, do get the lyrics later. So, yeah, I'll mention that when it happens. But go ahead.
Back at Penguin's hideout, Penguin and Lola decide to enter another horse that looks like Parasol and put him in the same race. They would disguise Parasol and put him under another name. Penguin decides to check his penguin radio and learns that his exploding umbrella at the library was thwarted by Batman and Robin. Lola wonders why Penguin was so anxious to bomb the library and learns that the penguin was scorned by a woman and wanted revenge.
Again, I like the continuity. I like the continuity, and the Penguin really did try to hurt her because he hurt her, she hurt him rather, and I like that that's a continuing thread. So that's well done.
As the Batmobile and the Batcycle race their way to Glue Gluten's glue factory, Penguin and Lola arrive first.
So I didn't really notice this until yeah, the way you've narrated it here and laid it out, but it sounds like they're both going to the glue factory before Penguin and Lola have decided to go to the glue
I
factory,
know.
which is kind of weird. But we get night shots of Batman and Robin in the Batmobile, flying driving to the factory, and we get a night shot of Batgirl on her bike going to the factory, and that looks cool. Like we don't get to see the Batmobile at night a lot, very often. I think maybe a handful of times so far, if that. So that was a really cool shot. And then, of course, complementing that shot was Batgirl on her bike at night, going around. And granted, I'm thinking that they're using the night footage because it looks a little bit better and cheaper, but it's still, to me, it looks it looks more right to me to see Batman and Robin and Batgirl at night than it does during the day. Like it just yeah, it looks better for me. So, and I like that stuff.
Batman and Robin arrive at the glue factory to find Penguin and Lola trying to make a deal for a horse. Batman decides to arrest Penguin for attempting to blow up the library.
So, I want to just put in here real quick. We do see Glue Gluten himself. He's played by Horace McMahon, who was around from 1906 to 1971. He has over 160 acting credits starting in 1935. I didn't see anything of really of note per se and pertaining to, geek culture or that Batman series or anything like that, but he was around for a while and did a lot of stuff. So if he looks familiar to you, you've probably seen him in a bunch of things.
Penguin calls for his henchmen and a fight ensues. As the
So he
dynamic
so he calls for his henchmen, which we've yeah. So he calls for them. I thought he mentioned three, but I only saw two credited, so I'll have to go back and see if he mentions actually a name of a third. But the henchmen that come out are Armband and Visor, who he mentions. And those are two items of a bookkeeper or bookmaker would wear, of course. And then there's a third henchman. Well, there's actually a bunch of henchmen coming out, but there's a third that's actually listed among the folks that are out there uncredited. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Armband is played by Lewis Charles, who was around from 1912 to 1979. He has about 185 acting credits. He was in season one of this series. He was a Penguin henchman. He played Hawkeye in Fine Feathered Finks and the Penguins of Jinx. So this is interesting that we've seen. This is another instance where we've seen an actor play henchman of a villain that he's already been a henchman for, but he's under a different name. Um, Also, Visor is played by Joe Brooks, who was around from 1923 to 2007. He has a little bit less. He has 102 acting credits, but he was also a henchman in season one. He was a henchman for Falseface in True or Falseface and Holy Rat Race. He played Fat Man, the character named Fat Man, in that two-parter. He was also featured in Strangers on a Train, the Hitchcock classic from 1951. He appeared in a couple of episodes of $6 Million Man, and one of his last credits was in the movie Gremlins from 1984. And then the uncredited henchman, who is as of right now unnamed, but like I said, I think Penguin mentioned his name too, but we'll see. Anyway, his credits are extensive. His name is Dale Van Sickle, and he was a stuntman and an actor with over 600 credits, Drew.
Holy cow.
And he was around from 1907 to 1977, so he was around for 70 years, and he over 600 credits. So I will name them all. No, just kidding. Um, but I mean, one of his earliest credits was the Marx Brothers classic Duck Soup from 1931. 1933. He had a small role in Gone with the Wind from 1939. He was in the Hitchcock classic Saboteur, 1942. He was also featured in the Captain America serial from 1944. And he did a lot of other serials. He was in Zorro's Black Whip serial. He was in Son of Zorro serial. He was in a Ghost of Zorro movie. He had a role, a small part in War of the Worlds, 1953. He's in two episodes of The Adventures of Superman. He had a small role in Thunder Road. He was in two episodes of the Disney Zorro series in 1958. He was in the Hitchcock movie, he worked with Hitchcock again in 1959 in North by Northwest. He was in Spartacus from 1960. He was in an episode of Green Hornet from 1968, around this time as well. And a couple of his last roles were Love Bug, 1968, Duel with Spielberg, 1971, and Steven Spielberg's motion picture debut, which was The Sugarland Express, 1974. So he has an extensive amount of credits, and man, I bet that guy could tell some serious stories. But I find it interesting that he was featured in a lot of Zorro things, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, Zorro has that Batman connection. I have not been able to find anyone yet, and we'll see if this holds up, but I haven't been able to find anybody yet who has been in both the Batman serials or either of the Batman serials from the 40s and this series, which to me is kind of surprising because I've run across a lot of guys who were in, some of the serials back then in the 40s, like the Zorro ones and Superman and Captain America, but I haven't been able to find anybody who's got a Batman connection from 43 or this series, which, has been pretty interesting, but especially since we're going through the Batman 43 serial for the patrons. So that'll be interesting if throughout any of those episodes that we watch, those chapters we watch, if I can find one person who was credited in both, but a lot of
As,
experience there for the henchmen here, and we're seeing a lot of characters come up that have been in this season, like in this show before, playing different characters.
as the dynamic duo are fighting, Lola makes off with the horse. During the fight, Penguin attempts to escape, but Batgirl catches him in her lasso and ties him to the wall. Batgirl joins the fight by grabbing a large strand of adhesive tape and wrapping up the henchmen. Batman thanks Batgirl, telling her that they don't normally need help with their fights, but this time her presence was certainly appreciated. And if you ask me,
He says that in a really flirty way, doesn't he?
yeah, he does. And also want to point out, even though Batman and Robin were doing the fighting, Batgirl's the one that took out the all the henchmen almost at once.
Yeah, she ties up the penguin and then takes out like all the henchmen and ties them all up, or wraps them all up in an ease of tape. And I'm like, wow, like, yeah. And then afterwards, you think Batman or Robin are like showed up or whatever, and Batman's just like, yeah, we like he's almost like googly eyeing her, which I find was kind of weird. But yeah. So very, very weird stuff here. Oh, and I think have we overshot it? So the most awkward thing between Batman and Robin we see in like a little bit before this, where they're coming in and they're entering the glue factory. So they spot them on outside the factory. They're looking out the window, and then they go into the window through the window to confront the penguin. They decide to confront the penguin. They go in the window and they do these silly little like burlesque, like cliched, both go into the window at the same time and get stuck and then have to like kind of back off and then one has to go in and the other. It just, I've never seen them do anything that ridiculous before.
Yeah, it it didn't look good. And
No, it
then
did. Right.
when they come in, they usually come in quietly. They jump down and you hear a thud and it gets everybody's attention. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, it feels, I read something somewhere that by the third season, Adam West was no longer writing it as or acting as if he was not in on the joke. Like the whole success of Batman and the way he portrayed the way Adam West portrayed him, was that he would take it seriously. And because he took it seriously, we took it seriously, right? Um, but in the third season, he starts to be in on the joke and he starts to have a little twinkle in his eye and he starts to like kind of smirk a little bit as almost like to say, like, I know that this is silly and I'm silly doing this. And I gotta say, I'm kind of felt it I didn't feel it in the last few episodes, but in this episode, I kind of felt that way.
Outside the glue factory, Penguin is brushing library glue on the seats of the Batmobile as well as the tires, which I thought was ridiculous. And what the heck is library glue? Back inside the glue factory, Batman wonders how Batgirl knew that he and Robin might be in trouble with Penguin at the glue factory. Batgirl answers with the one thing they couldn't possibly have in their utility belts: a woman's intuition.
Hmm.
Batman and Robin finish wrapping up Penguin's henchmen. Robin wonders what they are going to do with the Penguin's goons. Batman states their fate is sealed for the present. I have to laugh because one of the henchmen had had tape wrapped around his head. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
I thought that was hilarious. Batman turns to offer Batgirl a ride back to the city, but she is already gone, like a shadow, like smoke, like a shooting star.
Yeah,
Robin,
he starts reciting her theme lyrics. Like, where do you come from? Where do you go? Like he starts reciting her lyrics, right? Their theme song lyrics. Um, and I thought that was kind of silly. Like, I mean, less silly than a lot of some of the other stuff that is going on in this episode for him. But yeah, that was kind of he looks because the way Adam is delivering it, he seems smitten. And look, if they want to go that way, that's cool. I just like I said, I feel uncomfortable with Batman and Batgirl having a relationship. So every time it kind of pops up on this series, I kind of feel icky. But I certainly can't blame him because Yvonne Craig, whether she's not in Batgirl costume or in Batgirl costume, is somebody to be smitten over. I mean, she's great, absolutely fantastic. And here she is seems to be showing up the dynamic duo big time.
The other thing I wanted to point out that was weird here is they wanted to offer Batgirl a ride back to the city, but don't they know she has her Batgirl cycle?
Well, Batman's like, you can be on my lap. So so all right, so you've mentioned this before that there are things that you remember about the show that you're waiting to see. And one of the scenes that I remember from the series is Batman, Batgirl, and Robin riding in the Batmobile with Batgirl in the middle.
I
And
remember that. I remember that too.
and I wondered if it was going to happen like when he said when he was going to offer her a ride to town. I was like, oh, this is where that's going to happen, and they're all going to get stuck, and that's going to be the cliffhanger. They're all going to be stuck, and the Batmobile is going to go out of control or something, and that'll be our cliffhanger for next week. But that does not happen. Instead, it's her typical disappearing move, and then Batman and Robin go in the Batmobile and get stuck. And so I don't, so we'll see if that still plays out. You and I have been in a Batmobile replica. There is no place in the middle for Batgirl to sit comfortably. So, I'll be curious to see if that actually happens. But I do have an image of the three of them in the Batmobile at some point. So we'll see if that happens. But there's no back seat in the Batmobile. So if you have someone, and they've traveled with people before, like Commissioner Gordon, or without him being in the trunk, or Catwoman or whatever, but they've sprayed with bat gas, and usually they have to sit in the passenger seat with Robin. So, so we'll see if that plays out. But yeah, so yep, nope, she does her typical vanishing act, and then he sings her lyrics.
You mentioned Batgirl singing the Batmobile. That I'd forgotten about that, but you're right. I remember that too. So,
We'll see if that happens at some point this season,
yep.
because yeah, I mean it could very well.
Robin wants to catch Batgirl, but Batman tells him no. They must allow her anonymity and freedom of action as they demand theirs. Whatever is fair in love and war is also fair in crime fighting.
Again, he seems kind of smitten here. I'd also like to say that, season 1 and 2 Batman of this show, I would be I would be not surprised to find out, to discover that Batman knows who she is. He has figured it out, but he is just keeping her secret. I don't know if we ever get a reveal to them on this show. I can't remember if we do. So we'll see if that happens later on this season. And but this Batman that's in this particular episode, I completely believe that he has no clue who she is. And that disappoints me too, because I think that, the Batman that you and I know, the Batman that you and I love, the Batman that's always 10 steps ahead and the smartest guy in the room should have already figured out who she is. And um but this Batman I don't think he knows.
If 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 I remember right, they figure it out in Batgirl Year One, the miniseries.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. We talked about Batman Year One, that miniseries in comic form. I don't know when in comic history they figured it out. So I'd have to go back and reread that stuff. But in that series that they sort of retconned her origin and retold her origin story, Batman figures it out before anybody else.
Yeah.
He figures it out pretty quickly because Batman in the comics is like uber intelligent. So, and he's, like I said, always 10 steps ahead. And yeah, so that's another reason why that series works, that comic series works, and another reason why you and I both recommend it because it's really solid. And that's
Yep.
the way I'd like to believe it would play out if it quote unquote happened in real life. So that's why I'm hoping that this Adam West Batman Bruce Wayne figures it out too. But like I said, with this character that's in this particular episode, This version of Batman, I just feel like he doesn't have a clue because he doesn't seem to know what's going on at all. And he just kind of seems like he's there. They don't really do anything to move the plot along. Like it's their show still. Come on, man.
Batman states there is something sinister about Penguin and Lola Schultz trying to find another horse the same color as Parasol. They decide to return to the Batcave.
Yeah,
Batman
let
and
let
Robin
the computer figure it out because they can't. Like they just keep going back to the back computer, and it's lazy.
Batman and Robin hop into the Batmobile. Holy mucilage! They are stuck to their seats. Batman agrees that things are getting even stickier.
Wah, wah.
Back at Penguin's hideout, Lola has done it. She has switched the horses. Now all I have to do is place their bet on Bumbleshoot, who will pay out 100 to 1. 10,000 should do it, but they need money to bet. Penguin decides to steal the priceless folio of famous parasols from the library. He can get a good price for it on the black market. Back at Barbara Gordon's apartment, an alarm goes off, waking her up. It is the emergency library prowler signal. She calls her father, Commissioner Gordon, and informs him. It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
Back at the Batcave, Batman apologizes to Alfred for worrying him. The Batmobile's library paste bat dissolving switch got stuck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Suddenly, the hotline phone rings. But are they too late? Will Penguin and Lola succeed in pulling off the foulest race fixing scheme of all time? More For more fun, tune in next episode. And I have to say, this was a terrible way to end the episode.
I was just about to say, I'm like, is this the worst cliffhanger ever? Like,
Yes.
like Batman, like looking at the phone, like, I don't want to answer it. I'm like, when have you never not wanted to answer the bat? Like, it seemed like, and what's really ridiculous is that they had a chance to give us a cliffhanger with them glued to the Batmobile. Like, that could have been the cliffhanger. That would have been a better cliffhanger than this.
Yeah.
Um, and they get out of that, but we don't see how they get out of it. But they just come up with a ridiculous, thing, which is not uncommon for the show. But yeah, I think they forgot how to write a good cliffhanger because they're like, yeah, we don't know how to do a two-parter anymore. So yeah, I'm kind of hard on this episode, but I think not without reason. But I do want to point out it's still fun. Burgess Meredith is still, as always, I want to give him props because he just is fun to watch as the Penguin. He just owns that character. I understand that later on when he was doing the show, he didn't really love doing the character that much, but he's still so good. And his scenes with Ethel Merman are fun. His scenes with Yvonne Craig are fun. His scenes with Batman is fun. Like every time he calls them the dynamic Thunderheads or whatever he calls them is fun. It's great seeing him and we dealt with boxing. Now we're dealing with racehorse scamming and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, these are typical kind of criminal enterprises that they haven't done before, which is okay. I dig it, but um, yeah, this is not like we're going to take over the world with some weird scheme. These are like pretty street level crimes that they're doing. Um, and it's still kind of visually fun. Because of the lack of sets and everything, the set design, they have to use always the black backdrop. But the bookmakers and the glue factory look cool. It still looks cool visually, I think, and stylistically. But like I said, and there was some cool stuff. I really loved the fact that Batman and Robin and Batgirl like do their stuff at night in this, which is pretty cool. So there's some stuff to like in this. I'm not going to be like, it's not a complete, bad show or anything, but man, it just seems like there's some opportunities here that it's almost like they forgot how to write a Batman episode or something. Like it just seems kind of off.
This dude is disappointed in the cliffhanger.
ask him next week. He's going to be like, "Will Batman answer the
Answer the
phone?"
phone. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Do you have a shout out, Mike?
I do. As you know, I am not above appearing on other folks' podcasts. In fact, I do it quite frequently, and I love appearing on fellow ESO network podcasts. And we mentioned that one of the henchmen was featured in the movie Gone with the Wind earlier, and it just so happens that an episode I recorded on the with Nathan Laws, the 42 cast, we went through an extensive review of that movie and kind of its influence and some of the controversy around it, the historical inaccuracy, and looking at it with some modern sensibilities as well as other aspects of the movie. So we had a lot of fun. It was Nathan, myself, Keith, and Kimmy, and Nate, I think as well was on there, and that just got released this week as we're recording this. So check that out. It's a lot of fun to talk about classic movies, and I was glad for the opportunity to do that.
All right. And for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about my other podcast, the Earth Station DCU, because it's being rebranded into the Legends of the DCU podcast. So
Nice.
we're excited about that. New theme song, new logo, and yeah.
So with the rebranding, new theme song, new logo, are you guys doing anything new with it?
No, it's
Like,
gonna
is
be
there a
it's
new outlook on it? Are you going to be focusing more on something? You're still going to reviewing comics, right? DC Comics.
yep, still
Uh,
reviewing comics.
and you're still talking about what DC shows and movies are coming out, right?
Yep. So pretty much the show's gonna stay the same. We're just rebranding.
Gotcha. Cool.
So I'm kind of excited about that. It's been 10 years. It's time for a little bit of change.
Yeah, just
So we're
get
gonna
your face, get your hair did.
yep.
Are you going through a mid-pod crisis, Drew?
Apparently. And it's not like we haven't changed the logo and stuff before, because we have changed the logo before. So, but I don't know. I just felt like it was time for a change, and we're starting off with number one, but we're having number one with our legacy numbering still, kind of like a comic book. So
So that is typical of comic stuff too.
yes. So, and eventually we'll go back to the old numbering just like comics do, but I don't know. I just thought it was something fun to do. So
Yeah. We may be doing some rebranding ourselves by the end of the year on BatChums as we get to the end of the 60s series and whatnot. So we'll stay tuned to see if that happens. But
yes, so that'll be interesting. I'm not one for not rebranding. All right, if you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about, you can reach us at our feedback line 317-455-8411. Text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at batchumspodcast@gmail.com. All right, you ready to get out of here, Batchum?
BatChums are ready to move out.
Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Almost forgot it.
Don't worry, the nays are yet to come.